You're watching The Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A.
28 games, 16 wins, 12 losses. Coach Katrina Merriweather and her staff discuss the first season at the head of the Memphis program next.
I had learned very quickly what it means to be a Memphis.
The game is on.
The Katrina Merriweather Show is presented by Chick-fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich.
Hello and welcome to the Katrina Merriweather Show. I'm Tyler Springs. Today, we get a chance to talk to Coach and break down her first season at the head of the Memphis women's basketball program. Coach, you reached the high water mark of your year early in February. You get a big win over your alma mater, Cincinnati. You improved to 13-6 and 4-4 in conference play. And as you get deeper into conference play, things get a little bit harder for your squad. Playing the non-conference slate, it's not like playing conference teams where everybody knows you a little bit better. How do you handle that change?
Yeah, I think that what we've always tried to do is just focus on what it is that we need to be good at. As you get caught up in what everybody else is doing, then it can give you more obstacles. I think that that's one of the reasons why we didn't play well against East Carolina. We walked in, and I in particular, although my coaches always do a great job scouting, I was so consumed with us and what we were going to do and how we were going to play that we didn't spend as much time as we needed to on the press breaker. And that's the best example I have for you. So I think that that's the main point for me, is that we just got to go in and play the way that we want to play no matter who we play. And we did that a lot of the time. And then there were moments when we just failed to execute that.
Speaking specifically to that ECU loss, you lost by 30, you lost on the road. How do you turn around and come back to the last game of the regular season, your home regular season finale, against that same team and do it better than you did the first time? What are the discussions like going on behind the scenes to say, hey, we came into this first game and it just did not go the way we wanted to, maybe because maybe our focus was too much on us. But what kind of feedback did you get in order to turn things around and make sure you got the right result the second time against East Carolina?
I think I underestimated the feelings in the room of our players. Because when you take a look at what we did all year long, like we compete with Central Florida and even in the conference tournament, South Florida, we beat Temple, we split with SMU, we beat Houston. You know, we did such a good job showing up and competing against the upper half of the league. And then we get to a space where we're playing people that are even with us, and then our efforts seem to be a tad bit different. So I think I just underestimated the importance of making sure that they were ready and prepared mentally to enter those games. And once we played East Carolina once, it was a lot easier for me to obviously decide I need to do a better job preparing them for the second time. And I think that once we did that, then it just became a little more familiar. And we figured out some ways to break that press a little easier. And I think that's why we got the results we did later on. And I took that. You know, as a coach, I took that the first time and said, there's no way that I can claim I have my team prepared to play. So again, we stepped up as a staff and we did a better job. And I think that was reflective in how our players handled everything.
You get some huge plays down the stretch in that East Carolina regular season finale, including 4 free throws in the final 20 seconds from Jemima Schutz. You get a couple of Maya Stovall steals. You get a massive charge taken by Amani Jefferson. You get to 15 wins in the regular season, and that's a number that this program hasn't seen in a couple of years. How big was that for you to get it and to get it on this floor?
Well, I think it was huge for our kids. You know, for us, we always talk about how we can coach as long as we want, whether that's Division I, AAU, or Biddy Ball. You know, but your eligibility is your eligibility. 4 or 5 years is all you get. So for them to be able to walk out of here with the win, for Lanes and Tyler in particular, that we know that they don't have any more eligibility left moving forward, I think that it just left a really good taste in their mouth about the experience that they've had here, not just this year for Tyler, but collectively for Lanes over her 5 years.
You go into the conference tournament and your team looked as prepared and as intense, I think, as they had been all season. You play like that against East Carolina to advance and play a South Florida team you hadn't seen up to that point. What's the challenge of turning around in 24 hours and facing the number 2 team in the conference like?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, you need more time than that if you're going to put together a plan that you feel like can last for 40 minutes. And as much as I say that, I feel like we had a chance to win that game. We played really well for 3 quarters, and then we just had some mental lapses in the fourth, as well as some, earlier in the game as well, where we had a lead of 6 points, 7 points, and then we lost it. And unfortunately, we did not prepare in a way up until that game to finish that game. And so that's why we didn't. And so we've got steps to make and things that we have to get better at. But most importantly, I am proud of their effort and their confidence. Is when you start showing up against a South Florida and you don't have any hesitancy, like there wasn't anything in me that felt like we couldn't win that game. And that was coming off of how these kids were practicing and the way that they were walking around, their heads were up and their shoulders were back. And I looked at the staff and we looked at each other and we said, we got a chance. And I don't know that I would have said that in November or December.
How impressed are you with the progress that your kids made, especially in a year where you didn't have a consistent strength coach and it was hard at times, I think, to balance that with the grinding schedule of a season? What did you like about what you saw from your team in terms of growth? And what did you maybe not get to or want to get to more in a future season?
Well, I think that the first thing is that they showed up, right? Because this is a team that sometimes suited up 7 players, 8 players last year. And that was just for me going back and looking at box scores and saying, oh, wow, this player didn't play and this one didn't play. And this one only played 11 of the conference games. This one only played 6, and I think that's the most important thing is that this entire season, we had everybody show up. And we had our own struggles and our own obstacles. We had people who were in COVID protocol, and people may not know that because we didn't miss games. They did everything that they could to show up for those games. We didn't have to not play anything. We didn't cancel one game. We played every single game we were supposed to. And if we didn't play a game, it wasn't because of us. And so that's the number one thing that we focused on was you got to show up every single day to have a chance. And they did that. The things that we wish we would have done better is found a way to take care of that ball. I think those turnovers plagued us. And while we did really great things, like only turned it over 13 times against South Florida, we obviously had those games like a Wichita State at their place, we turned it over 25 times. And those excessive turnovers and our decision-making, knowing time and score. I feel like those are some of our game situations that we'll have to continue to grow in and get way better at if we're going to have a different result next season.
Broad strokes, you closed the book on season 1 as the University of Memphis head women's basketball coach. What did you like?
The support, hands down. I mean, we sit in this gym and we practice and we do everything that we can, but it doesn't matter. We don't set up chairs. We don't take them through weights. We don't interview ourselves. We don't call the game. Like, it is amazing. I have never, ever been at and/or seen a place that functions like this from top to bottom, from the administration to the support of our upper administration. And I know I say this a lot, and I struggle to name all these people, right, that participate in us being able to have the success that we do, but it's true. And then we have people that show up to these games. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but we're almost at 1,000 people a game, so around 800 or 900. Well, these are people that are showing up and they have the option to go to our men's games. They have the option to go to Grizzly games, but yet they still show up for women's basketball in a time where we haven't done anything quite yet to justify having 800 and 900 people in here, besides us working really hard. And the support that we have from people that are just so excited about this program is really, really special.
You've heard from Katrina. Now it's time to hear from her staff. You'll hear from them after this.
You're watching The Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A.
Though they've been together for a while, this is the first time for Katrina Merriweather's staff leading the Memphis Tigers program. Let's hear what their thoughts were on season 1.
Inside Access is presented by Chick-fil-A.
This team wins 16 games. These seniors have never done that in their careers before. How proud are you of that as an accomplishment for your staff in year 1 as a program?
Yeah, of our staff, I'm proud. Obviously we've all been together. We're all extremely competitive, but at the end of the day, those kids won the games. Our players won. We would have a plan, try to execute it, but they're the ones that showed up, worked hard, They made the baskets, they got defensive stops, they got the rebounds, so I'm proud of their effort. They bought in. We asked them to work hard, they worked hard. There was point in times where we weren't coaching effort. You know, they wanted to win. So yeah, I'm proud of our staff, but I'm proud of our players. To be picked last on paper preseason, you know, you don't know what that's going to do to a team that went through the things that they went through. We're new, we bring in 2 new players. How do they handle that? And what they said is that they weren't the last place team in this conference, and they worked hard enough to show that they weren't. I'm really proud of that.
When you look at the guard play on this team, obviously a unit that you work closely with, what stands out to you in terms of the way you were able to coax Amani Jefferson and Maya Stovall into leading this team from the point guard position?
Yeah, I think that they play aggressive, and their effort was there. And when Amani and Maya are on at the same time, it was a dangerous situation. We felt arguably that we had one of the best backcourts in the conference. Mani playing at a position that's not really her position, but that they're just both tough. Maya's won before. She's played at, you know, a great program, so she knows how to win. And Amani having the experience that she had last year as a freshman with us and playing in some high-level games. You know, they just showed up and worked really hard, and you know, I'm very proud of that.
16 wins on the season as a whole. You guys fall short of getting a WNIT bid. How do you like the way things finished, just as a complete picture, season 1?
I think it was pretty well. There were some times where we obviously didn't play to our full potential. And there's other times where we were like, oh my goodness, this team can be really, really good. And you just saw that towards the end of the year where we were locked in and we were focused and we were ready to compete at all costs and ready to show up. So overall, I think it was a pretty good year 1 and a good stepping stone to build off of in years to come.
Do you think those last 2 games, intensity-wise, mentality-wise, those are emblematic of the program, at least the way you hope it to look going forward?
Most definitely. Just the toughness, the fight, the way that we were confident and we didn't look scared. And it didn't matter who we were playing, we were ready to show up and play our game, just Memphis basketball, which is being tough and rebounding and letting our defense dictate what we're doing on the offensive end.
When you look at player development, among the kids you worked with this year, who are you most proud of for making progress and maybe for doing things that you didn't necessarily know they could do at the start of the season?
I would say most proud of really all of them. But Maddie Grizz for continuing to show up and continuing to evolve. We were talking about that ECU game. We would advance the ball to her, and usually she would look to shoot it, but she was looking to attack and get to the rim and score some pretty big buckets for us. So her being able to evolve throughout the season to not just be a shooter, but be able to just make plays for us and get to the rim. And then obviously Maya Jefferson, she showed up big time for us. She played really, really well for us throughout the entire season. And we kind of went as she went. So it was pretty good to see her develop throughout, from seeing her from freshman year, moving up to her sophomore year, and just looking to continue to build off of that.
What stands out to you about the things that you liked for the way this team finished, and maybe some things that you didn't?
I think ultimately this last month is just the way we endured some of those shortcomings. You know, you hit a wall there. You know, we start thinking, okay, are we going to be able to finish this thing on a high note? And we just keep grinding. You know, to Trina's credit, we keep showing up every day. We keep practicing, keeping our girls' head in the right mindset. And, you know, you find a way to pull out some signature wins, some big wins there at the end, and kind of have some momentum going into the conference tournament. So ultimately just fighting through some things, you know, fighting through some adversity and just finding a way to win, because that's what this is about. More often than not, is just finding a way when some things aren't going according to plan.
Are there things about the final 3 weeks of the season that you want back?
Shoot, yeah. You know, again, you think about a couple of those games that we dropped and where we could have been better and performed better. And I think our girls would be the first to say that, you know, if we could get that game back and just do some things differently and just been in a better mental space that way, you know, the outcome would have been completely different.
What did you like about the post dynamic this year? What were you proud of in terms of their overall development and their production?
I think we talk a lot about winning the position. So we didn't put the pressure on one particular post. You know, there are times before every game, right after we finish warming up, we talk about, our opponent. What are they averaging points and rebounds? What are we trying to hold them under for that particular game? So I think that they're buying that way. I think the way that they accepted Tyler coming in her first year, and Lanes and Lynetta really embraced her. Lanes was really open to, she started at the 5 initially and moving her out to the 4, and we flipped her and Lynetta. And the fact that Lynetta bought into that and said, okay, let me do what's necessary for our team to be successful. So if I have to go in here and play the 5, I'll play the 5. So, just their ability to come together that way and handle when we're yelling and fussing at them, right? Because Trina talks about it all the time. We want every rebound. We want every basket. We want you to get the rebound and then run down to the other floor and beat everybody down. So it's a tough job, and they accepted their assignment that way. So I'm pretty proud of them and the way they fought this year.
You've been a head coach before, and you've been a friend of Katrina's for a long time. When you have some losses that make you scratch your head a little bit there late in the year, how much do you get a chance to talk to her and say, hey, from my experience, this is something that we might be able to try, something we might be able to tweak, something we might be able to change in order to get a different result? And what are those conversations like?
We have quite a few of those, and she's really good about, we'll have a lot of them together as a group, and sometimes I just may call her if I see something on film and say, hey, T, what do you think about this? And we chew on that, and then we bring it to the table, and everybody has an opportunity to kind of give their thoughts on that and what we think may or may not work. But that's been one of the great things about working with her, is just the fact that, she trusts me, and she allows me to bring things to the table, and I'm not apprehensive about it or hesitant. And, she's open to, my thoughts, and she's willing to say, yeah, that sounds great. Let's try to look at this. So that's kind of been the dynamic of our relationship, and it's one that I appreciate.
Inside Access is presented by Chick-Fil-A.
Season 1 in the books for Katrina Merriweather and her staff. Coming up next, we get a chance to hear about what they're bringing in for Season 2.
You're watching The Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A. Let's take a look at the AutoZone road ahead.
Looking ahead to next season, you're going to lose some veterans from your rotation. What excites you about the kids that you've already signed coming into the program, and what else do you need?
Moving forward, as we graduate and lose Tyler and Lanes, having Destiny, who is an incredible post player. She reminds you a lot of Tyler with younger legs, is what we call her. We're excited about having her. Then we have a local great in Serena Lee, who's going to bring some perimeter shooting, another ball handler, someone who enjoys playing defense and can also get to the rim. She's a 3-level scorer. So those two in particular are going to be a lot of fun to watch. There will be a lot on their shoulders because Lanes and Tyler, leading rebounder, and the versatility that Lanes has and her skill set. So we're going to have to go find some more pieces. I don't think recruiting is done just with those two. So we're going to be pounding the pavement here in March and trying to find another 5-player to bring in here.
That was tonight's AutoZone Road Ahead. AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination and official sponsor of Tiger Athletics. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Onward and upward for the Tiger program in Season 2. We're back to wrap up the show after this.
You're watching The Katrina Merriweather Show, presented by Chick-Fil-A.
Thanks everybody for joining us. It was a great first season. Next week, we'll sit down with a couple of the players to talk about their thoughts on the year.
The Katrina Merriweather Show is presented by Chick-Fil-A. We didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich.
Very quickly what it means to be a mentor.
This copyrighted telecast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield under the broadcasting rights granted by the University of Memphis. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the expressed written consent of the University of Memphis and Learfield.
This has been a presentation from Learfield,